Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Omar Khalid. But today is the 21st of April 2025. These are the stories that we'll try to understand during the course of our show. We'll begin with the Gaza situation on day 562. We see the casualties that are happening not only in Gaza but also in Yemen and in Syria. The Middle East or the countries surrounding Palestine seem to be burning. The intentions behind it are of course known to the U.S. and Israel, but the fact is that the whole of the Middle East is burning as we speak. The fact is that despite so-called first phase of ceasefire, nothing tangible has happened since then, and the number of casualties keeps on increasing. The number of people keep on being killed by the Israelis in Gaza for one pretext or the other. Will there be a stop at any time? This is what we will discuss in our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the talks that are happening between Iran and the U.S. Now, both have agreed on Saturday to task experts to start drawing up a framework for a potential nuclear deal. Now, Iran's foreign minister has confirmed this after a second round of talks following Donald Trump's threat of military action. We know that Donald Trump has threatened military action more than once. We will understand or decipher how both sides are going to maneuver in this game of talks, whether the JCPOA still would stand in some form or the other, because the EU states are not being consulted as we speak as far as these talks are concerned. Next, we are going to talk about Pope Francis, a very unfortunate news that engulfed the entire world, especially the Christian community across the world. Pope Francis, leader of the Roman Catholic Church, voice of the poor, who transformed the Catholic Church as well, died on Easter Monday at the age of 88. We know that he was already suffering from respiratory ailments, but unfortunately he succumbed, and he succumbed on the Easter Monday. A lot of condolence messages have been pouring in from across the world, including from our own Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif Saab, who has been very vocal as far as the Pope is concerned. He said he continued to inspire billions of human beings for the good guidance of peace and security, and was a pioneer of interfaith harmony, peace and promotion of humanity. Next, we are going to talk about the 87th death anniversary of philosopher, poet and thinker Dr. Allama Muhammad Iqbal, that is being observed across the world, including in Pakistan, because Pakistan is not the only country where Allama Muhammad Iqbal is revered as a poet, as a philosopher. There's also Iran, there's also Turkey and so many other countries as well. Now, lastly, we will talk about the week-long anti-polio vaccination campaign that has begun across Pakistan today, and of course the importance of polio cannot be undermined in any way possible because of the number of cases in Pakistan and the importance of eradicating polio once and for all by the end of this year, as has been stated by our Prime Minister. This is the lineup for today, ladies and gentlemen. Let's begin with our first segment, and that concerns Gaza, that concerns the Middle East, and of course that concerns the U.S. and Israel. We've been joined by Osama Muhammad Nazzal, who's a Palestinian journalist, joins us from Jenin. Osama, thank you very much to have joined us. Osama, these attacks by Israel continue, despite the so-called talks for peace or so-called talks for some kind of a resolution of this whole conflict. 39 Palestinians have been killed in the last 24 hours. 51,240 is the official death toll, but the actual death toll is much more, maybe twice or even thrice than that. 1,800 Palestinians have been killed since March 18, since the fresh escalations began, and the Israelis put aside the peace agreement and moved with the brutalities as well. In your point of view, how is it going to end, or is it going to end? What do you foresee as somebody who's there?
Yeah, it is very clear that Israel is rejecting any peace agreement with the Palestinian people, and it chose the path of genocide, being aided and supported by many Western powers and by the silence of many governments in the Middle East. Since the 18th of March until now, Israel killed over 1,880 Palestinians, and most of these Palestinians were set on fire to death. Israel killed a number of journalists and at the same time executed 15 Palestinian paramedics, the crime that all the world had heard of and seen when the Israeli forces killed the paramedics and the civil defense staffers and buried them and buried their vehicles, the ambulances. This shows that Israel is not concerned about not even peace, about a period of a quiet and calm, as this policy goes in line with the mentality of the current Israeli government represented by Netanyahu, Ben Gvir, and Smotrich, who since day one of the creation of this government declared that they are going to end the Palestinian cause by decimating Gaza and ending the existence of the Palestinian refugee camps in the occupied West Bank that we are all seeing and living today.
When you spoke of the 15 medical and humanitarian workers who were driving in ambulances and were of course attacked by the Israelis, would the Israelis deny, even officially they have denied that the Israeli army or the Israeli soldiers were involved in this, then the video that has recently been uncovered from one of the medics who was killed mercilessly by the Israelis shows exactly the last moment. How credible in your point of view, but I'd like to ask you definitely this question, how credible is the Israeli military's internal probe into the killing of these 15 emergency workers, because they say it claims no indiscriminate fire from the Israeli side. Can operational mistakes justify what UN officials are calling potential war crimes when the victims include medics that respond to distress calls?
Omar, the Israeli occupation forces narrative is based on one rule: keep lying until the world trusts you or believes you. But this time Israel failed to keep lying because the world did not trust and did not believe the Israeli narrative because of the videos that were published by the United Nations workers and by some of the paramedics who survived that murder crime. So Israel found itself pushed into a corner, either to change its version of the crime or to start investigation. And it investigated, and of course the military investigation is aimed at one thing all the time in Israel: to acquit and serve the Israeli soldiers. So their report said that it was operational mistake. Imagine how devalued the life of human beings is in the Israeli occupation eyes. They executed 15 paramedics and declared that it is only operational mistake. And they said that they dismissed the Israeli commander who gave the orders, and all that is known to the Palestinians. They try to acquit their soldiers from the international justice system, because when now the international justice system asks for prosecuting the criminals, the killers of the paramedics, Israel would tell them, we did the investigation from our side and we punished the perpetrators. But in reality, they are not punished. On the contrary, they are awarded and they are promoted because they are acting according to the orders of the Israeli senior political echelon and the Israeli military echelon. As many statements we have from the Israeli authorities calling on their soldiers to cripple the Palestinians, to kill the Palestinians. And all that is happening in Gaza today or in the occupied West Bank is happening according to the military and political instructions from the highest level of Israel. So their investigation is not reliable, is not credible, and all that is aimed to is to acquit and exonerate the killers of the paramedics and just to avoid any prosecution by the ICG or by the ICC.
Now, Osama, let's also talk about these talks for extending the ceasefire or entering into some kind of a peace agreement. Why do you think Hamas rejected this latest Israeli proposal for a 45-day ceasefire? What does that tell us about the negotiation dynamics between the two sides as well? And also, how important is the role of, or should be the role of mediators like Qatar, Egypt, and the U.S. to ensure progress as far as these talks are concerned?
Concerning the United States and regrettably, the American administration is providing all the support that Israel needs to continue its mission of murder and genocide. So we don't count any hope on the American administration because Trump's position is clear. Whatever Israel needs must be provided for it, regardless of the suffering and the humanitarian catastrophe that the Palestinian people are facing under constant Israeli bombing and Israeli bombardment. Concerning the other mediators, I think without really pressure from the world governments that reject genocide and reject the annihilation of a whole people, of a whole nation, without tangible and concrete steps that would pressure Israel to stop, Israel is not going to stop. Without clear sanctions on Israel and severing all forms of relations and normalization with Israel, Israel won't stop. Look what's happening now. Even it is weird to talk about ceasefire because we are not talking about two combating parties. What we see is that Israeli warplanes and Israeli tanks are killing women and children, are bombarding tents for displaced people and bombarding hospitals. We don't see a Palestinian army facing the Israeli invading army. So what is needed from the world is to face the truth and force Israel to stop its genocidal campaign against the innocent children, against the innocent women who are enduring a war that no nation on a planet has ever experienced or gone through.
Also, Osama, you know, the humanitarian situation is really dire as far as Gaza is concerned, whether it be the shortage of water, whether it be the shortage of food. As the WFP World Food Programme also says that the Gaza needs food now. Water shortage is also in extremely bad state. Half of water needs sanitation. Sanitation services are not present. A lack of heavy machinery, equipment, and to add to that, the Gaza's health system that has completely been disseminated because of most of the hospitals that are not in operational state. Whose responsibility does it become now to at least provide for the basic facilities to the people of Gaza?
Yeah, according to the latest United Nations organization's reports, now Gaza is living a real starvation. It's living a real famine because Israel had not allowed any truck of aid into Gaza for the last 55 days. And all the aid that entered Gaza during the ceasefire period ran out, according to UNRWA and other international organizations report. So the Palestinian people in Gaza are really dying now of starvation. Not starvation because of a natural disaster or because of people's laziness. No, it is starvation because of a decision taken by the Israeli occupation government to starve the people to death. Now, hundreds, even thousands of Palestinian children are suffering malnutrition because of lack of food. Israel had bombarded the electricity generators and the water plants, and even the seawater that was desalinated for Gaza had been stopped by the Israeli occupation. So Israel puts two options on the table for the Palestinians. Either you die of bombardment or you die of malnutrition and hunger. Without a clear
aim is to kill. So the basic aim is to kill as many Palestinians or maybe all of the Palestinians if that is possible. We've also been joined by Ambassador Naela Chohan. She's Ambassador and a Foreign Affairs Analyst. Thank you very much, ma'am, to have joined us. The Western hypocrisy is quite evident when it comes to situations such as Gaza. There is more or less a silence or an inaction from the Western democracies over this rising toll in Gaza and also in Yemen, also in Syria, despite their repeated claims of upholding human rights. When it comes to Ukraine, they are the first ones to highlight that. When it comes to Gaza, why not?
Well, the historical background to it You are very right that there is a complacency, there is a connivance also, unfortunately. But as was described by the earlier speaker, the situation there is dire, and irrespective of whether you believe in human rights or not, you are all humans, and we need to respect that. Palestinians have been dehumanized by the Israelis and by the Western media. So, unfortunately, their death is not taken with that seriousness. As was said before, it is eliminating them. It's a genocide. Whether they die by bullets or whether they die by malnutrition or hunger, the end result is the same. It is to eliminate them, and that's the sad part.
That is the very sad part, but that is the truth as well. But you know, this is not just relegated to Gaza, it's also now moving towards Yemen. It has moved towards Syria and Lebanon as well in the past, but now we are seeing more of Yemen and Syrian bombings. You know, there are 12 people that have been killed recently in Sana'a. Then there were 53 people that were killed in Yemen on the 16th of March as well. This all is apparently because of the Houthis and their resolve to continue attacks in the Red Sea against US and Israeli interests until such time that a ceasefire is agreed upon. And when the ceasefire had been agreed upon, they had stopped interfering in the Red Sea. In your view, don't you feel this so-called rules-based international order has completely collapsed when it comes to Palestine and Yemen?
It has simply collapsed, irrespective of whether it's Palestine or whether it's any other situation. You can see that the system, the Bretton Woods system that was created after World War II, the institutions that were established for peacekeeping and peace maintenance are now being threatened. Their funding is being reduced. UNRWA cannot work to give humanitarian assistance to the Palestinians. The world is changing. It's very fluid at this moment, but it's also very scary how right is might is right instead of right is might. That's how it's working now.
All right. Last question to you, Osama, and this will be twofold. So there are two parts of it. From Palestinian viewpoint, do you feel the American strikes, whether they be in whether they are in Yemen or the Israeli strikes that are on Gaza, are linked to the broader project of protecting Israeli regional dominance? Second part is a quote by the Israeli far-right finance minister Smotrich, who says that returning the captives, because they have refused the deal that Hamas had proposed, that we can return all the captives and you need to stop the war. They said returning the captives is not the most important goal of the war. We need to eliminate the Gaza problem, quote unquote, he said in an interview with an Israeli radio station. Why, in your point of view, is this being ignored, and what does he mean when he says we need to eliminate the Gaza problem? So the next question that I'm proposing has two parts. Your take.
Yeah, let me start with the Smotrich statement, which is not strange to the Palestinian people, as Smotrich declared since the beginning of the establishment of this rightist extremist government in Israel, that the Palestinians have three options, and I said that many times. Either you accept Israel as an occupying power and you carry out its orders, or you leave Palestine, or you fight and you get killed. Smotrich doesn't have any other option for the Palestinians. So the ethnic cleansing policy and the genocidal ideology that he is sticking to is clear to everybody in this world. Now, Smotrich doesn't care about the hostages or the Israeli government in general, does not care about the Israeli captives, because they had more than one opportunity to have them back and end the genocidal campaign, but they reject that. Israel has one mission now, according to the Israeli government, which is the occupation of Gaza and ending the existence of the Palestinian people there, and also expanding settlements in the occupied West Bank and annexing, if not all of the West Bank, but large parts of it, and ending any existence for the Palestinians in Jerusalem. This is what Israel has on the table. Concerning the Americans are supporting the Israeli Zionist ideology of expanding the Zionist project in the Middle East. Israel now is occupying parts of Lebanon, occupying parts of Syria, and I don't rule out that it's going to occupy parts of Iraq in the near future. And at the same time, they are pressing America to launch its war against Iran, starting with hitting Yemen. So the whole picture now is clear. Israel wants to have full control not only of Palestine, but of the whole region, the Middle East.
Thank you very much, Osama Muhammad Nazzal, to have joined us all the way from Jenin in Palestine and to have given us the updates as far as what is happening in Gaza and also beyond. Thank you very much, brother. Let's come to the second story, and that concerns the US-Iran nuclear talks. Now, both have agreed this last Saturday, just 2 days back, to task experts to start drawing out some kind of a framework for a potential nuclear deal. And apparently, both Iran and the US have agreed to the modalities of it. But what is going to happen is the big question mark that everybody has on their minds. Whether the JCPOA in some form or the other will be revived, whether this will be a new deal, whether the sanctions on Iran will be lifted to some extent or to a larger extent, and what is being asked by Iran in return, and what is the role of Israel. We continue to be joined by Ambassador Naela Chohan for this, and we'll also be joined by another guest that I'll introduce shortly. Naela Saiba, what is the significance of both Iran and the US agreeing to allow experts to begin designing this framework for a potential nuclear deal? How do you interpret the Iranian foreign minister, Mr. Arakchi's comments about the talks being constructive yet approached with caution?
Well, this is a very important development. Firstly, since the withdrawal of United States of America from JCPOA, this is a new development.
All right.
It's now being worked between the two countries, not because JCPOA was
with the European
P5,
countries.
P5
plus one,
right? But here there is no P5. It is just United States of America directly dealing with Iran. And the experts on both sides are going to create a framework in which, creating parameters under which they will be negotiating the Iran-U.S. nuclear deal.
Now, Ambassador Saiba, also given the involvement of Oman as a mediator, what role do you feel third-party facilitators play in reviving such high-stake diplomacy?
They play an important role, and if you recall, even the Rahbar Khamenei had said that they didn't want to talk directly with the United States, but they are willing to have a dialogue with them through third party. So, in that sense, third party becomes very important.
All right.
Which is acceptable to both sides.
Because as long as it's acceptable, any option, I think that is what everybody is going for, to find a solution, if a solution is found. We've also been joined by Dr. Haissam Bou-Said, who's the head of the UNSC mission in Geneva. Thank you very much, Dr. Haissam, to have joined us. Iran insists its nuclear program is peaceful, but maintains red lines such as keeping its uranium enrichment capacity, and also does not want to talk about the ballistic missiles. Are these positions, in your point of view, negotiable, or are they going to be potential deal breakers for the US or from Iran? How realistic do you feel is it for Iran to agree to any restrictions beyond the 2015 JCPOA terms?
Yes, good afternoon to you and to everybody and to your guest. I believe that, and according to what we have been following, that Iran is restricted to what has been done. It's not restricted to what has been done before, because she has declared that in 2015 she has went beyond this agreement, and she's looking forward for better improvement of the situation, especially for her nuclear program. But the problem is that Iran will not go by the American instructions to the end because they are seeking to save their program for the purpose of using it for safe use, not for the nuclear bomb. Now, in regarding to the U.S. position, we believe that the U.S. main target in this negotiation is to secure not having Iran a nuclear bomb. And I believe that this issue is very possible today. And Iran also has declared that it's not in its ethic to create a nuclear bomb according to the religion belief. So we feel that this negotiations is moving ahead and we are backing it till the end and we are seeking to see a good ending for this peace talk.
All right, Dr. Naela Chohan, from US policy standpoint, is Trump's public stance of no nuclear weapons at any cost, quote unquote, helping or hurting negotiations, or is this the official US statement that is going to continue till the very end?
I think they are setting, the tone. I would say they are setting the tone for the dialogue. But Iran has always been compliant with the IAEA, and the Iran that was signatory to JCPOA is not the Iran that you have today.
All right.
At that time, their enrichment, uranium enrichment was 6 to 7%, which was totally peaceful. Now they have enhanced their capabilities, but they have still not got to the point of having the weapons. So, in that sense, this was a propitious moment for USA to come into negotiations. And what I sense from Mr. Donald Trump's statements is that he always says that the negotiations done by the earlier governments were not in line with US interests, and interests entre guillemets in inverted commas, because how do you define US interests? Mr. Trump is more into economic interests. So whatever this deal will be, I'm sure US is more inclined to have commercial interests also
aligned with this.
Aligned with this.
All right. Do you feel that Donald Trump's approach towards Iran in this current term is similar or different from when he had, excluded himself from the JCPOA in 2015? Also, do you feel that Trump threat of military action complicates the or puts pressure on this negotiation process with Iran?
Well, this is American strategy, carrot and stick.
All right.
So the stick has to be at the back for you to see that it's there, but they're offering you carrot. As far as Iran is concerned, I can tell you I've lived in Iran. I was the first female diplomat to be received by the revolution in 1989, I'm talking about. So Iranians are very shrewd negotiators also. And like you quoted Mr. Arakchi, he said we are cautiously optimistic, but there's no reason to be pessimistic. So they are going to be very careful and calculative in their negotiations with United States. So it's a very interesting evolution of negotiations, I would say.
Naela Chohan, Israel is, as per media reports, is reportedly considering a strike on Iran's nuclear facilities. How does this affect, if it happens, or even the fact that this is being said in media, how does this affect the pace and the atmosphere of these current negotiations? Also, what are the broader security implications for the region if Israel were to act unilaterally?
Well, firstly, Israel uses a lot of propaganda machinery to basically sound out. It cannot take action until it has support of United States. It cannot really do it unilaterally. It has to have American support, and you might have followed the news. Mr. Trump has asked Israel to back off on this, you know. So, Israel cannot, they are pressurizing, they are bent upon forcing the Jewish lobby in the United States is pushing the administration, the Trump administration to allow that to happen, but Mr. Trump has put his foot down. He does not want any unilateral action by Israel against Iran while the negotiations are going on. However, the US fleets are already in the Persian Gulf. So that the carrot stick is going on, but Israel is being curtailed, and negotiations will be, I think, very different from JCPOA.
Naela, Chohan, also since these talks happened, there has been a comment from Mr. Arakchi, but there is no formal comment from the US or from either from Trump or from the US side. Do you feel this delay in a reaction from the US side is going to affect public perception of the whole take as far as these talks are concerned?
I think the United States, while the Iranians are giving positive messaging, United States has not commented because there is a division within the Trump administration.
All right.
There are the hawks and there are the doves. So it remains to be seen who prevails. At this moment, because of that division, I think they have not come to consensus on what the US administration needs to state as its public statement.
All right, I understand. Dr. Haissam, thank you very much for continue to join us. I'd like to understand what could be the key technical challenges that could arise in designing this framework that has now been given to both the Iranian and the US sides. In satisfying both the sides when it comes to these agreements, or a final framework that could be agreeable to both the sides?
Well, we believe that the Syrian portfolio is going to be a little bit an obstacle to the negotiations, the ongoing negotiations today between both sides. And I think it's going to be a carry to the third round because of this complication in the scene in Syria. We all know the conflict raised between the US and Iran in Syria. And this is one of the main obstacles in the negotiations. But I believe that Iran is very flexible. The US administration also declared that they are willing to go to the end of these peace talks between them and Iran. And this is what we are focusing on today. And we are trying to turn around all these points in order to make sure that the Syrian scene or the Syrian politics is not going to be a dangerous part of exploding these negotiations, these ongoing negotiations. But the issue is not only in the hand of Iran, but also it is a step that the US should take in this sense.
All right. Also, Dr. Haissam, I'd like to understand, in these negotiations, the European Union or any country of Europe is not part. They were part of the JCPOA in 2015, but they have been deliberately sidelined this time. There have been comments by the French foreign minister as well as the British side and the German side. But I'd like to understand, why is the EU not part of these negotiations when it was the primary factor as far as the first nuclear deal is concerned?
Yes, because I think that this dual discussions between the US and Iran on specific topics has to be done separately from the EU. The EU has no problem with the outcome if it is in the positive way. They are supporting this negotiations, and more than that, this negotiations is also being held with, in the hand of Italy, one of the European Union states members. So this is why I think, because of this sensitive topics that could blow up in case it is expanded, as you may know that some of these negotiations should be done between four walls. I mean, it shouldn't go out. So I think this is one of the main reasons why the EU didn't participate. But I'm sure that they are following all the outcomes and they will come in later on because they were in 2015 part of this agreement with Iran. But there is no issue, there is no problem between the EU and Iran. Okay, even on the other topics that I've mentioned herein.
Stay online with us, Dr. Haissam. Naela, Chohan, could a successful or failed deal affect Iran's economy or its standing within the global community?
Definitely. And that's why Iran is so keen and flexible in negotiations. If it did not see interests, it wouldn't come to the table. Iranians are very shrewd about it. So obviously they see benefit in this negotiations.
All right. This is your take as far as this is concerned. When it comes to the nuclear deal, there have been certain apprehensions by the IAEA as well regarding Iran's nuclear facilities or its capabilities. Do you feel Iran will be able to satisfy both the US and the IAEA as a result of these negotiations?
Yes, I believe that Iran has done a lot of steps towards the organization. And I think that also the US is aware of all these positive steps done by Iran. And they are aware that Iran is not going to go to the end to have a nuclear bomb. And all their concern is to have this nuclear program for peaceful use and not for other issues. So this is maybe one of the main aim of this negotiation that is going today. And we hope that in the coming session also, we will witness a final agreement between both sides. And Iran has expressed its willingness to receive the organization in all its part of their program, and there is no restrictions for the organization to enter any part of the premises in Iran. Okay, so this is one of the positive aspects that Iran has given during this peace talk.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Haissam Bou-Said, head of UNHRC's mission in Geneva, to have joined us to discuss the UN-Iran talks. Last question to you, Naela. There are so many pros as far as these talks are concerned: de-escalation of tensions, economic relief for Iran, regional stability, global energy benefits, nuclear non-proliferation, and the list goes on and on. But my concern and concern of a lot of analysts is, are these talks really genuine? Are the parties really genuine in their quest to really come to a finality when it comes to a deal?
I would say yes, because why would they be going through this negotiation if they were not serious? Obviously, both parties are serious, and Mr. Trump would not have come to the table if he did not see, he's a deal maker. I would say he's not a peacemaker, but he's a deal maker.
All right.
And if he sees there's a deal to make, he is here to negotiate.
All right.
And the Iranians also are, I think, very serious about it.
All right. So let's hope we come to a deal this time, and we hope this is a deal that is agreeable to both the US and the Iranian sides. Thank you very much, Naela, Chohan, to us. Last three stories very quickly. The first is a very, very sad news about Pope Francis, leader of the Roman Catholic Church, voice for the poor, who transformed the Catholic Church, has unfortunately left for a higher abode, passed away at the age of 88. This was confirmed by the Vatican in a video statement. The Argentinian leader of the Roman Catholic Church had suffered various ailments in his 12-year papacy, and of course he was one of the oldest popes in the Church's history as well. This came, as I told you, weeks after he was discharged from a hospital. Mourners are at this moment as we speak gathering in St. Peter's Square, where there's a sense of shock and sadness. World leaders have paid huge tributes, whether it be King Charles saying he profoundly touched the lives of so many, and other leaders from across the world, including our own Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, who said that under the leadership of the Pope, the Catholic Church spread the message of love, patience and mutual respect all over the world, and his conduct has been a beacon not only for the Christian world but for the followers of all the faiths. his demise is an irreparable loss to the entire world, especially the Christian community, said our Prime Minister. And of course, our deepest condolences to the entire Christian community and to the world as well for having lost such a gem of a person. Secondly, the 87th death anniversary of a philosopher, poet and thinker, Dr. Allama Muhammad Iqbal, is also being observed across the world today. Who doesn't know Allama Muhammad Iqbal or revere him for his capabilities, for his vision for Pakistan as well? Born in 9th of November 1877 in Sialkot, the visionary poet who conceived the idea for a separate homeland for the Muslims of the then Indian subcontinent. Both our President and our Prime Minister have given very strong statements on this auspicious day of the 87th death anniversary of Allama Muhammad Iqbal. The President pays tribute to his political and intellectual contributions, while the Prime Minister says Iqbal was not only a poet but was a far-sighted leader who presented the concept of a separate country for the Muslims of the subcontinent. We are so fortunate to have had leaders like Allama Muhammad Iqbal, because it is because of his and our Qaid Muhammad Ali Jinnah and so many other leaders that we stand here in this separate homeland for us known as Pakistan. Finally, week-long anti-polio vaccination campaign has begun all across Pakistan from today. Of course, the members of the field department will go to all the different houses. They come to every single house, apartment building, to ask for the children of below 5 years of age to give them the polio drops. So I hope that all of you will cooperate with them. This, of course, was launched by our Prime Minister as well in a campaign by administering polio drops in Lahore yesterday. So we wish that this campaign becomes a success like previous campaigns, and we go to eliminate and move towards eliminating polio finally from our country by the end of 2025. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. Inshallah, tomorrow with new story segments that pertain to us here in Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.